Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Squid Junction. Once again, it is I, Matt, and I am joined by a set.
Yo, we're headed into this next match, Greasy Goblins versus Oro Jackson on MakoMart zones for the first game. What do you think of this matchup?
This is going to be quite the matchup. Did you say it was zones on MakoMart for our first match?
Yes, indeed. We don't have the maps up at the moment, but I can see that on the screen.
It is quite the tried and true of the Splatoon zones. We did see that Manta was scrubbed for the counter or the counter pick. They didn't want Manta. We were disappointed they didn't want Manta, but we will have MakoMart instead.
For those who are unfamiliar with this tournament, you get 7 maps, and each team acts as a map from the list. So the map pool is going to be more agreeable for both of the teams. And one of the teams acts Manta, which, I mean, I guess it makes sense. They haven't had practice on it. But also, that's so lame. We want to see Manta. Nah.
They also decided not to go with zones on Museum, instead opting for like the double Rainmaker, which is quite interesting pick.
Interesting. Yes, indeed. But I do believe we are going to be going into this next game very shortly, so we're going to have to see what these two teams have to bring to the table.
Yes, Greasy Goblins was going up against, I think, Bet, and they took it all the way to a Game 5, which was why break took so long. So they're definitely going to have to be a force to be reckoned with. We did see Ouroboros. No, we have not seen Ouroboros yet, so completely new. Ooh.
More CJ. This is a pattern I'm really interested in. Oh, we're seeing double jump on Oro Jackson's side. That's really fun. But it looks like the Carbon Roller has already gone down on this side, unfortunately. And we do have the CJ painting up the zone, and they are going to try to push up here. Trying to get as much value as they can with their slightly shorter range backline. That has to play a lot further up. And here we see Super Chump coming up on the zone. Oh, the Ink Storm. It breaks the Super Chump. But no, here we see the second Super Chump coming in. 2 of them. Very interesting.
The decoy.
The decoy of the decoy.
Ooh, but the Booyah Bomb's going to come out, just pressure them off a plat, and it's going to be both of their end subs down, almost all of their painting power gone. And we are slowly seeing that the point counter ticking down for Greasy Goblins, still in solid control. That CJ is working out for them.
Yes, indeed. I do think CJ is actually a fairly strong option. But here we're seeing that the zone timer is kind of low here, so this is pretty high stakes. We have so many chumps on that zone. Oh no, it's just the Carbon Roller left. They really have to try and frag out here. Oh no, they are fragging out indeed. And they do have one jump in that has to really survive here to try and do something, but no. That is going to be a 0 to 100 yet again on zones.
This has also been a recurring pattern. Every time we zones is picked, one of these teams just peaks solid control of it for the first match, and we're gonna see if they're able to keep this up. But that was definitely very one-sided.
Yes, indeed. But I just don't think that Oro Jackson really got a chance to shine in that game. That's why I do feel like if zones had a slower timer with a less harsh penalty, I think that would be a little bit more fun to watch. That is, I haven't heard anyone else say that opinion though, so I might just be a little bit insane for kind of disliking zones for that. But it just means it's a very high stakes mode. You only really get one chance, and if you lose 2 pushes in a row, then that's it. You're out. It's brutal. It's a very brutal mode. But we are going to go into Rainmaker Scorch Gorge, I believe. So yeah, we're gonna see what's up with that. I'm not quite sure. I think the maps may have just been wrong on the stream a little bit, but that's all right. Squid Gorge is one of the maps that didn't get changed. It's kind of interesting that we haven't been seeing those maps that got changed. Maybe it's because a lot of those maps that did get changed are maps that aren't really commonly played at the moment, which makes sense because that would mean the maps need a change. But I do think it's pretty interesting.
Indeed, we did see the double Super Chump, a very interesting choice in that last match. It can make sense for zones, but I don't expect to be seeing the return of the jump for a Rainmaker. It doesn't do quite that much damage on its own. It is mainly a painting tool. So I wouldn't expect them, or I would expect them to, if they're going to stick with an end zap, at least bring out the vanilla, the gray end zap, or if not, just swapping to something else completely.
Yeah, I do think the Chump isn't best at, it isn't best used as a painting tool. I think it's like, it's similar to a Wave Breaker in a way. You have to pop it on someone, and then you have to push inside of it, because the Super Chumps are really easy to counterplay. You just shoot them. But it's a distraction that's going to be having to shoot at the Super Chump decoys at the exact same time as someone is fighting you is just going to give you a massive distraction. Just like Wave Breaker, how you can usually just jump over it, but if you are fighting someone, that gets a lot harder.
Indeed, indeed. And is that they're sticking with the Siege, but they're also they're bringing out the Dynamo Roller. What?
That is very interesting. They saw the double Super Chump and they took their opportunity. Dynamo is very, very good at dealing with it, but nope, their Super Chumps are gone.
Yes, we're still seeing the double splash, as you do, but we're also seeing the new Neo Splash.
Ooh.
In addition to that, the Squeezer. And that's going to be a wipeout for the Oro Jackson right there, getting the drop on Greasy Goblins.
That was a very, very good opening from Oro Jackson. But we are seeing this Dynamo try to make work of these choke points. I think Dynamo is a very interesting pick. I think they just wanted to try to counter the Super Chumps. But the Dynamo is going to go down in the process of trying to hold that. And so is the Machine. Luckily, they did both have Tactical or Active, I believe. So they are already back in action, and they are able to stop the Rainmaker at 16 points.
Yeah, the Dynamo can certainly get some good angles on this map, and just the Tactical in general is, as we said again, super helpful for Rainmaker. But Oro Jackson here, they just changed up their comp, and they are currently on the aggression, putting Greasy Goblins on the back foot. Kind of what Greasy Goblins did in the last match to Oro Jackson.
And here we see multiple players on the team just absolutely striking it out, trying to get some stealth picks here. And ooh, very clean pick from that Carbon Roller. And it is just that Squeezer. And the Carbon Roller now knows where that Squeezer is, and they are dead. Very good play from Volty there. But we are going to potentially see them try to build up a Trizuka here. But it is pretty interesting. Greasy Goblins doesn't actually have a Crab Tank. They instead opted for a Neo Splash, which is a very interesting pick.
We see that Trizuka coming online, but they're going to be using it, just trying to keep them at bay. But the Trizuka is going to push them out, but not before they get a nice pick.
Yeah, we can see Oro Jackson is just doing a really good job of holding this space very aggressively, able to keep Greasy Goblins on their toes. And as Greasy Goblins goes 2 down, this is going to be very good for Oro Jackson to try and hold the space here. But it does seem like they are trying to opt to just stall a little bit. It is a little bit early in the game to try and stall out, though. But then again, every second does count.
They were able to get it down to 16, but that last segment before the pedestal is quite the gauntlet, especially if Greasy Goblins is still up to defend. Like, they're really going to need either a very slippery push or a nice wipeout to really push any more points on that board. So just kind of keeping them in their base for the time being might be beneficial, but like you said, it's still pretty early in the match to be doing something like that.
Yeah, and we can see that Rainmaker absolutely stalling out in mid. Going to try to just pressure a lot of people using that. That Crab Tank as well is just going to stall out very easily. And here we see the Rainmaker finally exploding at the very end of their timer. And that's going to give Greasy Goblins a decent amount of room to breathe, actually. Especially with that Tactical from the Dynamo, getting that pick on the splash, very clean. It's going to be able to get a lot done here.
2 members of Oro Jackson down, both the Splash and the Jet Squelcher. And now that the Juice is going to be popped, and they're going to be pushing that onto that first checkpoint. Able to... Ooh, they're not quite able to. The Tri-Strike comes out to stall them out. And I think that is going to be the... Rainmaker just so much poison mist on that pedestal right now.
Yeah, they are absolutely just using Toxic Mist to deny that pedestal there. But it isn't quite going to be enough. You can't use only Toxic Mist to stall out that pedestal. It's going to make it a little bit more awkward to get up there, yes. But it isn't going to stop them in the same way that a Suction Bomb would.
Speaking of bombs, we're going to see the Burst Bombs come out, just absolutely taking down that Rainmaker. 2 members of Greasy Goblins are down, but they are going to get the pop off of that.
Yes, indeed, and we're seeing them trying to hold this space here. The Rainmaker is it's pretty close to the lead here. And here we're seeing them push very far forward. Very, very threatening lead there. Very threatening push. If they can continue to get control of this Rainmaker, it's going to be very good for them. But it looks like Oro Jackson might just opt to jump it off the map. But no, they're going to try and stall it up there, which is a very bold choice. Going to try and just get it into place that Greasy Goblins can't really touch, using that push against them. But no, they're opting to jump out to reset that Rainmaker.
Ooh, that's going to be 3 down for Oro Jackson. This is rather dangerous. Like, they still have the lead, per se. They have some specials online, but if Greasy Goblins gets too much of a foot, well, I say that there's 3 down for Greasy Goblins, just the Rainmaker remaining. They are going to be able to get some picks off of that with some jumps coming in, but Oro Jackson is already locking down their base with pain again.
Yeah, and we are already about halfway through the allotted time on the Rainmaker. That's about 30 seconds, which isn't a whole lot of time to work with. It's a lot more than you get in other modes, but you still have to be really careful here. That Inkstorm is actually kind of threatening to the Rainmaker there, but they are going to be able to potentially push forward here. The team fight over there isn't going super well. As the splash has gone down, this Crab Tank is going to force that Rainmaker to back out just a little bit more. So much stalling is happening here, but Oro Jackson has finally gone 1 down. But that being said, it is just the Rainmaker left for the 2nd time in a row. So that is going to be their time running out as the overtime timer slowly ticks down here.
Did that Poison Mist coming out, they are not going to be able to make much headway there. With the rest of the team down, the last of the Rainmaker's timer is going to tick out and explode, with Oro Jackson taking the 2nd match here.
Yes, indeed. I believe this is the first time we've seen a 1-1. Or even...
I think you were correct.
I think in every set so far we've seen, which hasn't been a lot of them have been... these early sets are usually more one-sided, but this is the first time we've seen an actually back-and-forth wins, so that's actually very, very interesting. Night and day for both of the teams there. Absolutely highlights those teams' strengths and weaknesses. I think the Dynamo pick just maybe wasn't the best play there. I do think that did kind of... That kept their momentum from being able to really get that big. They weren't able to capitalize very quickly off of stuff.
And then we saw with on the opposite side, the Jet Squelcher, once they got that lead, their whole purpose was just to lock down the pathway to the Rainmaker with Poison Mist almost everywhere, and then the rain coming out on top of that. Just there wasn't anywhere for that Rainmaker to push. And then of course when the rest of the team went down, they just left it without any support whatsoever. And it just, the whole batch just went by in a flash, because it was basically just 2 pushes, one by Oro Jackson to get that lead, and then stall out for a good, 30 seconds, and then the rest of it was just Greasy Goblins trying to bring it back and yet not able to successfully.
I am also getting word from the chat that that player actually is a Dynamo main, which is fairly interesting that they didn't bring it out earlier. But yeah, you can actually see they have the 5-star Dynamo badge. So it is interesting that they didn't pick it for that Zones map, but no, they are switching back to that Jet Sculpture, which is still a very interesting pick. Yeah, I'm not sure what the... I'm curious to see what they cook with this. It's just interesting. I wasn't expecting this kit to be played, but no, we've seen this weapon more than 96 deco, which I was expecting to be very, very good. That's definitely interesting.
I think that the Jet Sculpture, it is a little bit easier to pick up, especially if you are a main of another weapon. The 96, just with the RNG on it, it does play like a supportive Slayer, and just you gotta know how to utilize this range in RNG. It is not quite played the same way as the Jet Sculpture. But we do see that crab, the tried and true crab, taking that tower to that first checkpoint for Oro Jackson, and they are off to an excellent start here, getting the paint and the tower under control.
Yeah, but it does look like that Oro Jackson has gone 2 down, which is going to be the end of their push. But that Crab Tank did manage to get a pick, which is going to really help them on their momentum afterwards, because they are going to have the advantage for just a second. But their splash is being pushed back fairly far, popping that Tri-Strike, going to try to get some value here. And ooh, that Carbon Roller does go down to the splash. Very, very clean aim from Kai there. And they're going to be throwing those suction bombs, trying to get the Tri-Strike out. You can definitely see the difference in playstyle between T-Tech. A T-Tech would be playing much more aggressively here. Splash is definitely more of a pure supportive weapon. And ooh, the crab tank coming from behind them
to just wipe them out. That is going to end that push before it gets started, and looks like they are able to clean up the last sloshing machine, and now they're back in control.
Yes, indeed. And that Jet Squelcher, it does have a storm though, so I'm curious as what they do with it. I'm still very surprised that Jet Squelcher is being played as commonly as it is. If it's actually a good weapon, I would be... That's definitely not something I was expecting. I'm still kind of shook by that, but we are seeing Tri-Strike coming out from the Neo Splash. The Jet Squelcher is going to try to move forward on the tower, but there is a flank coming from behind, and that isn't a crab tank on the flank. But there is a splash that is going to try and capitalize off the chaos of that crab tank to flank, but no, they opt to actually back out.
The Greasy Goblins, they got some nice picks, but then they're not quite able to get a good momentum for their push to be started. They have the Booyah Bomb and they have the Tri-Strike, but both of those are pretty stationary specials, and they're not really pushing out Oro Jackson like they want them to. And with the Carbon just wrecking havoc from behind, they are not able to really get something going here.
Ooh, yeah, the Carbon is absolutely eating this team for breakfast. Once this Carbon gets set up nicely, they can be extremely hard to stop. And seriously, they're getting yet another pick. That is very, very well played. And Crab Tank coming out on tower is just going to try and stall it out a little bit, try and get some pressure, but it is very close to the tower. And ooh, they do get knocked out into the water. That is pretty embarrassing there. And of course it happens on stream. But we are going to see Oro Jackson getting yet another player down, which is not going to be very good for them. It's still not a single team has even gotten to the checkpoint. Or gotten past it for any meaningful amount. And we see that Tri-Strike that Trizuka coming out, destroying that Crab Tank. Very, very satisfying there. But they are going to be taken out. But Oro Jackson is potentially able to defend the tower here. With Greasy Goblins still not quite being able to get lead. If Oro Jackson wins off of this lead, I will be very, very surprised.
Yeah, this is the oddest tower control match I have seen. Like on Hagglefish, you see teams they won't usually get through that first checkpoint. It's the second checkpoint that tends to cause the stagnation, what causes the trouble of getting through. But neither of these teams have really been able to push past that first checkpoint, and we're already down to the last minute.
Yeah, so this is kind of a high-stakes situation for both teams here. Pretty much nobody has made a sizable push, and there is only 30 seconds left in the game. That is high stakes. Imagine if Splatoon matches just lasted that long. It's such high stakes. It's like Turf War. It all comes down to the last 30 seconds.
Well, Greasy Goblins, they only need a couple of points to take the lead, but with two members down, it's going to be a little bit before they can really start pushing, and they don't have a good little while with only 15 seconds remaining, and that Carbon is going to be waiting for someone to just touch that tower.
Ooh, the Carbon Roller did go down. Greasy Goblins was 3 down, but Oro Jackson didn't actually take that advantage to push up. And oh no, that splash has gone down, and they are very, very close here. The Booyah Bomb coming out, going to stall people out just a little more, and they win 72-73. That is the strangest tower game I've seen in a long time.
Yes, I think they were able to call out that Carbon Roller and keep them from be able to flank from behind, because that was really what was causing them troubles. Like, they were good on their front side with their special usage, but then they weren't accounting for the Carbon, so taking them out early allowed them to be able to just wipe the rest of the team and have a clean walk to that checkpoint.
Yes, indeed, that was very, very well played by both teams there. They both had rock solid defense, and it shows. But we are headed into Rainmaker yet again on Sturgeon Shipyard, I believe. So that's going to be very interesting to see yet another Rainmaker match. Are we going to see Dynamo again? Who knows?
Yeah, this is Greasy Goblin's chance to be able to close out the set with a 3-1, but we saw last time that Oro Jackson was the one that came out on top for Rainmaker, so we'll have to see if they're going to be able to go up against what Oro Jackson had coming down, and we're going to see if either of these... We saw Oro Jackson come out with the Jet Sculpture last time. We'll see if Greasy Goblins will respond in kind as we saw them play it on Tower Control.
Yeah, I'm just the biggest thing that I'm curious about is whether or not we'll see Dynamo again. Originally, I thought that they just picked Dynamo to try to counter the Chumps because I have heard that it can absolutely obliterate like almost all of them. But apparently they do just main Dynamo, and Jet Sculpture is kind of a secondary for them. At least I've heard. We'll see what happens. New weapons, new things to play.
Indeed. We're gonna get the Carbon makes a return. Squelcher makes a return. Double Splash as well. And Dynamo does make its return for what side is that? That's the Greasy Goblins. They have their Dynamo once again.
And that I didn't realize before that the Dynamo is running QR Stealth Jump. That's definitely very, very interesting.
It's gonna be going for that aggro build, but no crowd for the side of Greasy Goblin. This is definitely the shift in the meta here. But that's going to be 2 members of Greasy Goblins down, and Or Jackson is coming back with that Rainmaker. Carbon is in that courtyard. That is not a place you want the Carbon to be sharking.
Yes, indeed, that Carbon is going to try and use that try to get some value. And they do manage to force checkpoint for their team, but they lose control of the court just instantly as soon as they get that checkpoint, which is not ideal for them, but they still did get that checkpoint. And with that splash going down, that's actually going to be very good for Or Jackson as well.
We see that they're going to be locking down that snipe. The poison mist is coming out, and the Or Jackson is picking up the Rainmaker once again. We did see that last member. They were still alive, and so they backed up and just kept paint and allowed their teammates to jump in. So now Greasy Goblins, they still have to work to be able to get out of their own spawn, utilizing their specials to just push Or Jackson out. And with one member just off to the side there, they don't have a safe spot to pick up that Rainmaker.
Yeah, and this machine is trying to get picks here. You could really see how kind of the utility of Toxic Mist there. They were able to, they were in a very uncomfortable spot. And the machine is opting not to partake in the juice and to grab the Rainmaker to try and speedrun it over to that checkpoint, but it doesn't quite work out, and now it's in a bit of an awkward spot for them. And it is just the Dynamo left to try and defend here. So that is what Dynamo does best, stalling out against people who are just WM1ing against you. And we are going to see them attempt to get the kill on the splash, but they're just barely outside of that range. Dynamo is such a slow weapon that you can kind of just back out as soon as it flicks to get out of the one-shot range and then punish them for that end lag. But here we're going to see Or Jackson grabbing the Rainmaker yet again, this time having full control of court, and they're potentially going to be able to start to score some points past the checkpoint. But no, this Squeezer is actually going to get behind them and kind of stall them out, but they're going to try and squeeze past it, but no, it doesn't quite work. And here we see the Triceratops also coming out. You're going to see if they can get some value and try and pick that Crab Tank, but no, it doesn't quite work out either.
Or Jackson was able to get it just past that checkpoint, so at least if Greasy Goblins did manage to bring it back with a checkpoint, they still have a good bit of a lead, and they're not done yet. They're still pushing up against that Rainmaker to keep it on Greasy Goblin's turf here.
Yes, indeed, and with that big lead from Or Jackson here, it's going to be a little bit hard for Greasy Goblins to pick back up. It does seem like Rainmaker is one of their weaker modes as of right now, but it could go any way. They may have just been getting unlucky. It might just be they're fighting a specific comp that is very good at Rainmaker. But they can be able to take this back. It's anyone's game still. Or Jackson doesn't have a very strong lead. But that being said, the time is ticking here. We're approaching below 2 minutes here, which is starting to get into the point where you can think about trying to just stall out the Rainmaker there. But no, that Or Jackson is going to end up going down pretty badly here. But they are going to be able to recover from that before Greasy Goblins can really take advantage.
If we saw 2 members of Greasy Goblins up on that left side, they saw the splash just trying to paint a way up there, and they were able to lock it down, and now they have the opportunity to start making their way towards Or Jackson's side. They have some turf for the checkpoint, but the Squelcher, they got it covered. They got some Toxic Mist out, and they are not going to be letting them get there without a fight. They're certainly going to have to be taking some picks in order to move forward, but with the Carbon shrunken around, they can't be too careful. It's just a matter of time before they able to get the specials up and running. We already see that rain coming out. Dynamo up top with the tactical, just trying to put some pressure up, and we see they're trying to open up the left side, at least distract him with the Squelcher, and they do get the Squelcher down.
That was a very clean double from that Squeezer player. Very, very good. But we are going to be seeing them popping that Rainmaker, potentially getting the lead here, but no, that Toxic Miss is going to slow them down just a little bit, and potentially just enough. But, ooh, we are seeing them trying to get some picks here, and they have to get a pick on the Rainmaker very soon here. The Rainmaker is backing up into their spawn, so Greasy Goblins has to get this pick here. If this machine gets a pick on the Rainmaker, that's going to be absolutely massive for them. They have to get picks in spawn. It's just that Splashmatic. If they pop this Rainmaker and they grab it, it is game. And here we see, it's so close. It's so close. They just need to pop it here and grab it, and that is going to be the end. And they managed to grab it, and that is going to be game 3 for Greasy Goblins. Managing to...
I have not seen that play backfire in such a long time. Usually you do want to be able to stall it out by backing it up, but they weren't able to maintain control to keep it that way. And so it's just the one tri-strike, the one wipe was enough for Greasy Goblins to bring it back.
Yes, indeed. That was very, very insane. These games have been so close. We've had some hype games. But that being said, that is the end of this set, and we are going to be going on a break, and that is actually going to be a commentator switch as well. I'm Ed. Where can these people find you?
We can find me on all the usual places, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube, at AdMakeGamerII. I do quite a bit of the Splatoon content, and have been neck deep in the Salmonoids this weekend. Yes, where can the good people find you?
Yes, you can find me Asect on YouTube, that's ACECT, and Asect with 4 T's on Twitter and Twitch. I have started doing just a little bit more content, just a little bit more streaming. I sometimes do coaching live streams, especially with the team that I coach, Squid Sushi, which, shout out, Squid Sushi, Weef and Pinky, both of them are on it, and that's the commentators you guys are going to be seeing next. Very good commentators, very fun to hang out with. Very good people. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget about that big announcement after the tournament, after Grand Finals. But yeah, it's time for me and Imad to tune out. See you guys.
Yes, have a good night, everyone.
Splatoon Stronghold. A stronghold for competitive Splatoon, providing resources to long-timers and newcomers alike. If you're new to the competitive scene or still figuring out how to join, we have a getting started guide and plenty of other resources to help you in your journey. If you're a seasoned veteran, we still have plenty to offer. You can find and request recordings of scrims as well as participate in our captain forums and find free agents and teams. Our mission is to make competitive Splatoon easily accessible to everyone. So what are you waiting for? Join the Splatoon Stronghold today.